Hey everybody, welcome into this magic room that's called the Zoom room. But the Zoom room on its own is not magic. What becomes magical is when two people come into this room. In my particular case, I love this room because I'm in here 10 hours a day sometimes, 12 hours a day sometimes 4 or 5. But every conversation I have is with someone I didn't even know existed 10 minutes before they come into the room. And there's something magical that happens when you just open your heart up to a stranger. And like I said to everybody who walks into this room, I say it to you publicly here. My only intention in this room is to love and accept people, to listen to them and hear them, and to acknowledge and validate them for what they're saying. I have no intention to fight them, to find reasons to disagree with them. There's enough of that going in the world. What I want to do is create a little pocket here where people can see that there can be spaces held for each other, where we actually listen to each other and hear each other without trying to think about what we're going to say next or how we're going to confront the person or how we're going to disagree. Some of the conversations are fascinating. Some of them you feel them in your soul. Some of them are boring. But all of them turn out to be incredibly interesting to me because it's just this amazing opportunity to sit with someone I don't know and get a chance to meet them. And more often than not, people come in as strangers and walk out as friends. And if in an hour we can turn a stranger into a friend, I like the prospects for that world that we live in, because if more and more of us would do that, this world would become a friendlier and friendlier place. I should mention the show is being sponsored by the book over my left shoulder, the Mosaic. It's the perfect sponsor for the show because the Mosaic is exactly this. It's about a boy who loses his parents 2 years apart on the same day. And when he asks the adults where his parents are, they tell him they're in a place called heaven. So he sets out in search of the place called heaven. But his search takes him to all sorts of different people, all different types, ages, colors, races. And he wonders why he's sitting with them, because most of the people are common, ordinary people. He wonders, how are they going to help me to see what heaven is? But in every time when he sits and listens to their story, what he realizes is they're not at all who he thought they were. And he finds his heaven in the change of perception that happens when he looks at exactly the same thing and sees it entirely different. And he wonders, I wonder what would happen if I got myself out of the way of seeing the world the way I see and see the world the way it is. Is that even possible? At that moment, he meets a monk who unzips the sky and invites him to a parallel reality and introduces him to the wise one who's the keeper of the Mosaic. If you like the idea of the book, it's available through Amazon. My sponsor would be very happy if you would purchase it. I would be very happy if you got it, not because of the purchase, but because we would have something to dialogue. I would love to know how you experienced the book. All that now is behind us. What's in front of us right now for about the next 45 minutes is the lovely Eve Howlett, who somehow calls herself the Queen of Heartbreak. We got to know what's going on. Eve, how are you? Welcome to the conversation.
I'm good, thanks. Thank you so much. It's good to be here.
I can't believe she's from my favorite place in the world where the Beatles came from. And that's my terrible attempt to give a Liverpoolian accent. But look how cool this is. I'm in San Diego. You're in Liverpool.
Yeah.
The chances of us in a normal world colliding and having a conversation would be pretty minimal. But here we are. And how beautiful that opportunity is. Tell us who you are and how you're doing.
I'm good, thanks. I'm Eve, but my alter ego is the Queen of Heartbreak. And I live in Liverpool in England, but I'm from further down south, so I don't have the Liverpool accent either.
Okay.
I'm trying to pick it up. And I'd say, I'm quite an open-minded, creative person, and I do all sorts of wacky jobs, and I either dress up in costume or get naked without much of a middle ground. So Yep.
So hold it. What does that mean? You dress up in costumes or get naked, and what does it mean that you are the queen of heartbreak?
Okay, so my main job has been like a life model for art groups and stuff like that, so posing naked and stuff. And and then like I also run a cabaret show called The Secret Circus, and through that like a character came out of it called the Queen of Heartbreak who does like comedy, storytelling and poetry and stuff. And then yeah, with the cabaret shows, like there's loads of different themes, so I'm always dressing up in different costumes. So it's a great life.
And how did that come to be? Out of all the things that you could be as a kid, how did you decide that you wanted to be the character, the Queen of Heartbreak, and
Well,
have these cabaret shows and do be a live model for artists?
well, I think my parents used to own a fancy dress shop, so there was always like loads of fancy dressing costumes. So, like in all my pictures of me when I'm younger, I'm either naked running around the garden or in a costume of some kind. So I think it was written in the stars, really. And then
Nothing much has changed.
yeah, and then I was always like trying to be on stage as much as possible, and like I just loved attention, so I think it yeah, it just kind of went from such a young age, and then I was like, how can I make money from what I love doing, and that's how all my careers happened.
Wow, wow. What is it about attention that you love so much?
I think it's just like I think like when I was younger, I wanted to be someone else and I wanted to be the popular girl at school and I wanted to be someone and then like as soon as, I felt like that was the way to get validation from other people and stuff was to kind of always have eyes on me and then whenever they weren't on me, I guess I felt like kind of abandoned or needy or
Wow.
something that must be from like when I was quite young, but I wouldn't know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I want to invite the listener. First of all, thank you for being so honest and thank you for
Hmm.
being so real. Um, Even I don't know each other. We met each other 13 seconds ago in the green room. And so we know each other all of about, the few minutes that we've been talking. And I loved her ability to just be so honest and real and vulnerable with us and to just take a question like that and just say um, what she feels and why she feels that goes on. And I want to ask you, the listener, what do you do to get attention? And do you know what she's talking about when she says in school she was growing up and she wanted to be one of the popular kids? And maybe she wasn't a popular kid and she wanted the attention, she wanted the eyes to be on her. What do you do? How do you play out life? And have you made peace with that? It seems like Eve has made peace with it. How do you make peace with your desire to have attention? Eve, what makes you happy?
Um, I think I'm most happy when I'm not stuck in my head, when I can just completely be in the moment, kind of surrounded by people who I love and I don't have to try and impress, doing stuff I love, being busy, doing just feeling relaxed and open and not constantly worrying about what I say or what I do or what I should be doing, just completely being free and feeling like yeah, this is where I'm supposed to be right now.
What made you feel like when you're around people you had to impress them or you needed to be doing something? Like why is there a line in the sand between those two places?
Um, um, I guess kind of, I think for a few years of my life, I didn't feel good enough and I didn't feel happy enough um, and like I always felt like I wasn't enough. I had to be doing more, and I had to, you know, always be working more, always be like, the one talking, the one making the funniest joke, the one, um, And I don't know where that completely stems from, but I think like when I think back to when I was at school, like I just remember not feeling enough and always feeling like I wasn't good enough in anyone else's eyes.
Yeah,
And then, like, as soon as I felt, actually, this is me, you only get one of yourself. Like, you might as well embrace it. And, like, as soon as I did that, like, all the bullying stopped. Like, suddenly, everyone that has had negative things to say about me just started, relaxing around me. And then that's when I was like, oh, actually, like, this is great. But I think, I still sometimes get stuck in that childhood,
yeah.
like, neediness of being like, oh, I'm not good enough. I need to be doing more. I need to be doing more. So yeah, I'm not sure.
No, well, and again, I want to just invite the listener in how honest and real Eve is being with us right now. And where are your places where you don't feel good enough? And where does your neediness come of I want to be better, or I should be doing more, or and really what I want to do, if you're willing to, Eve, is I want to dive into that moment. And I appreciate you saying that sometimes it's still, you still feel those that same way, that it's not a complete transition, but it seems like that moment where you
Hmm.
said, there's only one of me and I might as well enjoy being this me rather than thinking I have
Yeah,
to be somebody else.
yeah.
How did that happen? What came through your mind or through your heart, or what situations happened that took you from this person that was trying to be, somebody else, to being
Hmm.
accepting who you are as who you are?
I guess like during school, I kind of started rebelling against, the school uniform. So I started wearing these giant buttons in my hair, and I started making all this jewelry to kind of just like be a bit different. And like when people started noticing that about me, I guess I realized like, oh yeah, I don't quite fit into the norm, but people kind of like that about me. Like it makes me stand out. And then like when we were allowed to wear what we wanted to school, I'd just wear colorful things. And then like because I realized people were accepting like the things that were a bit different about me, I started to find I've always kind of found the outsiders of the groups and kind of brought them towards each other. And I think, yeah, I kind of started to notice like how amazing it was that I didn't fit into any one group. Like I just brought all the groups together. And I thought, when you start to notice these things and how other people celebrate them, I think you kind of realize like you can only validate yourself. You can't rely on other people to kind of do that for you. You've got to
Yeah.
accept yourself, and then other people start to accept you.
But so many, I mean, it's such a big lesson because so many
Mm,
people look for their validation outside of themselves. If you
yeah,
like me, or if I'm okay, or if you'll be my friend, or if I have this job, or if I live
yeah,
in this house, or if I marry this guy or a woman, I'll be good.
hmm,
And it's that if then world that most people live in that is very
yeah,
unsatisfying in the end
yeah.
because it always crumbles in.
Hmm.
Uh, what's important to you now?
I think now, like the lesson I've been kind of focusing on and that keeps coming up is to like put myself first and not just, like give everything to everyone else, like in my business, not just to pay everyone else and then if there's any money left, pay myself, or, put all my energy into working for other people, and then when it comes down to it, like not having enough time to do what I really love. Like I think over lockdown, I've all I've had time to do is to look after myself. And I've been like, oh, this is like what I've been missing. Like
Yeah.
so I've started to try and say no more, to try and give myself time gaps and stuff to relax. And yeah, I think, yeah, that's
Yeah.
that's what I've really been focusing on, because I think that's been a big thing throughout my life, trying to please other people and not giving myself enough, you know,
Why
of any.
why do you think you did that? I mean, not, and I'm not asking you why you did it, because
Yeah.
I am sure there are so many people that are listening that relate 1,000% to what you're saying.
Yeah.
We give to so many other people and try and please everybody else, and we come last.
Yeah.
Why do you think you did it? Why do you think we do it? What's at the heart of doing that versus this idea of, like, I can give to everybody, but I can include myself in the goodness that I'm giving to everybody else too. Like,
Mm,
why don't I sit at the same table that I'm feeding everybody else at, right?
yeah.
Rather than feed everybody else and eat whatever's left over.
Hmm. I think like in society sometimes like the word selfish and stuff is given to people or bossy or the people that want to put themselves forward and that like sometimes we use a lot of negative words around that. So I think like especially in Britain, like you're taught kind of to keep it all in and like be proper and not, do things to upset other people and like that's the proper way of doing it. You're not allowed to be like, no, I'm taking that and I'm taking that. You've got to appear like you're always, you know, being polite to other people and then so yeah, I guess I grew up kind of not saying no and being like, well, this is what I should be doing. I should be saying yes as much as possible to other people because that's how I'll get more opportunity or more friends or more. And then it's not until I started saying no that I was like, oh, I've got more energy and I'm more positive and I can give off that to other people rather than wearing myself out and then getting irritable and being resentful and all this. So guess it's just switching it around really and like giving yourself some distance and perspective to kind of be like, actually, I can be selfish and that's not a bad word.
Yeah. And maybe it isn't even selfish. It's maybe we need to invent another word, because I don't think
Yeah,
it's selfish to take care of yourself.
yeah,
I think it's selfless to take care of yourself, but
yeah.
we've been taught so often it's better to give than to receive.
Hmm. Yeah.
And in doing that, I think we've grown up and it's hard for so many of us to receive. How are
Hmm.
you at receiving? Are you able to receive?
um I think like in terms of receiving from others, I always like I'll feel like I have to say thank you, or I'm like, how can I repay them, or
Yeah.
and then when it comes to myself as well, like if I'm lying there just watching Netflix and eating food, I've started to judge myself and like I'm like, what? Oh, I could be doing work. I should be doing work, and like so I find it hard just to relax and stuff, and just be like, no, you're allowed something for yourself, like. Um, but I think more and more I'm getting used to kind of being like, no, it's okay to do that, or it's they've given you this. Like at some point you'll give them something back, but it's all right just to take it and accept that that's how it is, and leave it at that, and not feel guilt or you have to say thank you 50 times. Yeah.
I think for me, the biggest moment of real transformation in that regard was when I realized how much I enjoyed giving to people,
Mm-hmm.
but how much I stole that opportunity from other people because I didn't let people give to me.
That's interesting. Yeah.
And when I realized, hold it, I have the ability to give them the feeling that I get when I give to other people by just
Mm-hmm.
accepting it from people and saying thank you.
Yeah.
And that can be when they give me gifts, or it can also be when they are upset with me.
Yeah.
I just, in my book, The Mosaic, there's a character called the Trashman. And it just reminded me because the trash truck was driving by as we were talking and I could hear it outside. I hope it wasn't so loud that we could hear it on here. But the trash man comes every week and just takes all the things that we don't want. We
Mm.
put all the things in the trash, and he comes every week without hesitation and picks up our trash and takes it, grinds it up, and takes it to the dump. And in the
Mm-hmm.
Mosaic, the trash man met Mo while he was walking on a pristine, clean street with nothing on his back and nothing in his hands and nothing in his pockets. And he
Mm.
stopped his truck and he said, "Do you have trash for me?" And Mo was just about to look at him and say, "What are you, crazy? I don't have anything on me. The streets are clean. What is it? Why would you stop your truck right here?" Until he saw the glimmer in the trash man's eyes. And he realized the trash man wasn't asking about physical trash.
Mm.
He was asking about mental trash and emotional trash or spiritual trash. And Mo stopped dead in his tracks and said, "Oh my God, I have a lot of that, but I don't even know how to get it out." And the trash man said, I'll help you. I'll come down off the truck and I'll just help you. We'll carry it all out together. And just empty everything inside of you that no longer serves you and put it into this trash can. And and even if you say to me, "Trash man, you're the one that's causing me pain now," I won't tell you, I won't rationalize it or fight you on that. I'll just say, "Tell me more." Because my goal in being the trash man is to allow you to empty yourself of all this stuff that you feel that is keeping you from being who you are. Just put it all in here so that you can have a moment where you no longer feel that in your system. It's all here. You can take it back at any point in time. Or you can tell me, "Hey, I don't need that anymore. Put them in the truck and take it away." Because I like the feeling of what I feel like when I don't have those thoughts and that pain in myself. What do you think about that?
Yeah, that's really interesting. Like, I love hearing stuff like that. Like, because you know, even like putting stuff in the rubbish bin, like physical rubbish, I feel guilty that someone's got to come and take it along and stuff like that. But as a cleaner, I don't feel like resentful that I have to clean people's houses. Like,
Yeah,
so it's interesting.
yeah. So you now know the trash man. I've introduced you to him. So anytime you want him to come and take away
Mm-hmm.
any of that guilt or any of that shame or any of that feeling that you can't, he's there for you. You just call him, he'll come.
Mm-hmm.
And
That's
and
great.
you don't need me to introduce you to him anymore. He's here. He's yours.
Yeah, that's great. I'm gonna do that.
Okay, cool. If money weren't important, what would you do?
Um, I guess. Well, at the moment, I'm trying to apply for funding for my events company. So without like having to worry about applying for funding, I'd be putting on massive cabaret shows and taking them all around the world, and booking all the people I want to book, all the drag queens, all the burlesque dancers, and that, and just the best venues I can get, and just make the biggest shows that are so much fun to do.
I
Just
love that.
upscale.
I love it. Let's change the focus a little bit. I suck at lightning rounds, but let's give it a try, okay? I'm
Hmm.
going to ask you questions, and some of them will be really easy. We'll move through them quickly. Some of them I'm going to get curious about, and that's why
Okay.
I suck at it, because we'll slow it way down. Okay.
Yeah.
Are you a dog person or a cat person?
Cat person.
Coffee or tea?
Coffee.
Would you say you're conservative or liberal?
Liberal.
Yeah, I guess from where we were going. Uh, would you say you're shy or outgoing?
Outgoing.
I think you've already answered this, but I just don't want to assume it. Have you always felt like you fit into the world you live in, or have you always felt a little bit different?
Definitely felt different.
Yeah. It's one of the places where I was most surprised, because I think I thought going in that people
Mm,
would tell me they fit into the world.
mm,
And I
yeah,
think 95+% of the people I asked say they feel different.
that's interesting. Yeah, that's
And
great.
and I love what you said, is you took all the groups that felt different and brought them together.
Mm, yeah.
So there's this sort of sense from us of wanting to fit in,
Yeah.
and yet all of us feel like we don't fit in. Why do you
Mm.
think we want to fit in so badly?
I guess deep down it's a survival instinct. Like, when you're in a tribe, like you can rely on each other, but when you're on your own, you feel like, oh God, like I'm very vulnerable, and like I've got to do everything myself. But when you're with other people, you know, you can bounce off each other. Like people can take some weight off you, like give advice, give practical help. So I
Yeah.
guess deep down, it's probably a survival instinct.
Makes a ton of sense. Makes a ton of
Mm.
sense. What are you most scared of?
Probably getting to the end of my life and feeling like I've got a lot of regrets of things that I haven't done.
Wow. What are you most excited by?
Um, uh, I guess being surprised, finding things that I've never found before, like going to events where things happen that are so exciting, and just, yeah, like when we live in such a monotonous cycle, sometimes just having something that really blows our minds, that really excites me.
I love that. Let me go back to a question I asked you when we first started.
Hmm.
It's the simplest question in the whole world, and people give the simplest answer, and we just let it pass.
Yeah.
We say, "How are you?" And people say, "Fine, great, good." But we're in the midst of a global pandemic. We're in the midst of a civil rights movement that's certainly in America, but I think it's happening all around the world.
Mm.
We're in the midst of a movement by women, which is called Me Too, which is, is certainly hasn't taken backstage, where women are saying, I'm not going to stand for to be treated like that anymore.
Hmm.
We're watching many of the institutions and things that we believed in starting to decay and crumble and before our eyes. We're watching systems that used to work for us not working so well anymore. How are you doing amidst that world?
Well, hearing all that, I'm like, ugh, like I feel like my trash bin's just filled up again.
But certainly that's not new for you. That isn't that is
uh,
that I mean that's the world that's around us.
yeah,
Do you choose not to see it, or do you like, does it not matter to you, or does it, like, how is it that all, I mean, I know when I list them out like that it becomes overwhelming, right?
yeah. I guess because every day at the moment, like it just seems like more and more coming in, and I guess not having that escape of kind of shaking it all off at the moments, like I do feel really overwhelmed by it, and um, a lot of people that are close to me are now being separated because everyone has such opposing views and strong views about what's going on, that like even all the your little bubble, like of people that you thought were similar and on the same wavelength, and now, I go and see one person and they're like, oh, I can't believe like people are saying this, and then you go to the other person who was saying that, and it's hard not to kind of feel a bit confused and overwhelmed, and like have a lot of fear at the moment, but also a lot of hope. Like you say, there's movements which are really scary, but also movements which, I can see the world changing. Um, Things like, genders over the course of my lifetime, genders change so quickly, and like people starting to accept like um yeah, all these different things, and like doing podcasts and vodcasts and stuff, people are now starting to kind of find who like they feel connected to and hear their themselves being represented, and that's really cool. But yeah, I guess, it's I find myself feeling really positive and hopeful, and then like seeing something that fills me with dread again, and it's quite tiring and draining to
Yeah.
kind of, yeah, deal with, but it's important as well.
I think it's so interesting, and I'm not just using you in this particular case, but when I stop and pause with everybody in this room and ask a second time a little bit later, how are you?
Mm,
The answer is so different than fine, great, good, right?
yeah.
Right, and it just to me sort of it shares with the listeners and with myself how important it is to really ask a question and really have a desire to hear an answer.
Mhm.
because
Yeah.
all we're so used to just giving the answer that everybody wants to hear rather
Mhm.
than the one we really want to say,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And so I love that we took the time to go back there and to see that.
Mhm.
You talked about sort of, I don't want to put words in your mouth, so I'm lobbing this up because it was a couple minutes ago and I don't know that I'm going to say it correctly. If I don't,
Mhm.
please correct me on it. That receiving for you wasn't as easy. It was hard for you. It was easier for you to give to people than to receive. And would that be a fair statement?
Yeah. Yeah.
So one of the things I found in this room is in when I'm listening to another person, I have to be open to receive what it is they're saying. And my own, I'm like you, I was a way better giver than I was a receiver. And I think
Mm.
there are a lot of people that are like that, that we give, we're just so taught to give that we have a hard time receiving. But in order to really hear somebody, we really have to be willing to receive what it is they're saying. How are you as a listener?
I think I think I'm a good listener, and I think it's got better as well. Like I love talking. I love being the one that's talking. So, sitting in silence, like, is more something that I had to learn, and I guess um kind of being shut down for interrupting people a lot, like, has caused me to kind of step back even further and have to listen. But I guess it depends who I'm talking to as well. Like, I think, like, when you get a group of, like, me and my female friends will talk and talk over each other, and, like, whereas I feel like I get berated by my male friends or partners who are like, you're not listening, you always interrupt. So yeah, like, I guess recently more I felt a lot of judgment. Like, if I notice I interrupt someone or that, like, I'm like, oh god, like, I hope they don't think I'm talking too much. So
Mhm.
feel like I've gone a bit backwards to where I want to be. But yeah, so, but I think, like, I like to think I'm a good listener.
What do you think you would hear if you really listened more?
Hmm. I find that, like, my brain's gone blank thinking about that because um I guess I'd just have to try it and tell you.
Yeah.
But I think it would confuse people if I just stopped talking so much.
Mhm.
But I might get to hear more of who they really are, I guess.
Yeah.
Not what I think they are.
Yeah. Would that be valuable for you?
I think it would, yeah. I think the more you listen to people, the more you realize, like, um, yeah, you can really make it a stronger connection with someone.
Yeah.
And the people that don't listen to me, I feel, I put up a like barrier. I feel very tense, and I kind of push them away energetically. So, and then the people that sit and really listen, like, you feel like at peace and relaxed, and like you can be more honest.
Yeah. I love that. And my goal is to start a revolution of listening,
Mm,
because I think that that's just what happens. Just you perfectly said it.
mm-hmm,
When people feel listened to, they just relax. And I
mm-hmm,
watch in this room, what happens is who everything they're not falls off, and who they are emerges. And sometimes they've never seen themselves, and they see themselves for the first time in this room because they're just not protecting themselves or not holding up this barrier that says, I just need to be out there and I don't want to
mm,
listen to you. I've never really been heard. Do you feel
yeah.
you've been heard?
Yeah, I feel like I have been heard, and I feel like I love doing these podcasts because, like, especially with someone I've never met, like, you can
Yeah,
say absolutely anything
yeah,
and not have to worry about how it's perceived or if you say the wrong thing. And I think, yeah, I've done so many podcasts over lockdown with people I've never met and probably will never meet, and it's really helped me be like, if I can say this to like a stranger, like, and my best friend won't listen, well, that says a lot, really.
so I'm interested in that because a lot of people say that to me. It's easier to talk to a stranger than it is to their closest friends. Why?
Mm,
Doesn't Wouldn't that surprise you if someone would say to you, "Gosh, I say things to a stranger I won't even say to my best friend." Wouldn't that
mm.
surprise you? Would you think that would be, or do you think that's normal?
I think you've got more patience with someone you haven't met necessarily. I'm not sure actually. As soon as I said that, I was like, I don't know if I believe
Right, right. Well, it just doesn't sound logic. Like a lot of people
Yeah,
say it. I'm not asking you for you only. I'm asking
yeah,
you because so many people have said it that I'm interested in that.
yeah. I mean, I think yeah, the closer you get to someone, the more uh, like when you're getting to know someone, you listen more and you want to hear and you want to make that connection, and then when you've got more of a connection, you kind of it's almost like you've gone from asking anything in the world to kind of just talking about like what have you been up to today, what have you been up to yesterday, rather than like really opening up and trying to get to know them as a whole person. When
Yeah,
you have got to know that person, you make these assumptions, you know you've met them before, so it's just like, hi, how are you, what have you been up to, rather than so tell me your political views, tell me, and like, and having patience to listen to them as well.
yeah. What like come up 10,000 feet from the earth, okay,
Hmm.
and imagine this conversation.
Hmm.
Wouldn't you naturally expect the more you know somebody, the more interested you would be in knowing them more, the more open you would be in telling them about who you are because you trust them and you know them? Like, why do you think it is that we fall into that rut with people we know of just doing the same old, same old, same old all the time?
um I guess it's the same as kind of, if you go somewhere new, you want to like learn about the place and explore, and like, you know, if you go to somewhere you've never been, you're like, oh, what's in here? What's this? Whereas when you come home, you just want to lie on your bed and like turn on TV and like eat your favorite food and stuff, and like, you just get comfortable like with coming in, being like, oh, I know this place, like, so I don't have to like explore. I've got stuff to do. Like, uh, I should be doing this, but I'll just.
It's so
So
interesting.
yeah, if you compare it to like a, an actual place rather than a person,
Yeah.
I guess
No,
yeah, you just kind of get complacent.
it makes sense.
Hmm.
On a scale of 1 to 10, with 1 being you don't do it at all and 10 being you're fabulous at it, you may be the dictionary definition of it. Where do you stand with trust?
Um, Probably 7 or an 8.
So you trust the people pretty much.
Yeah.
So can I ask you about that?
Hmm.
Are you old enough to remember overhead projectors?
Yeah.
Okay, I love that. I love that I use such an old image, and some people sometimes remember it. Um, so I want you to put one plastic sheet that shows someone who pretty much trusts a fair amount. A 7 or 8 is a lot of trust.
Mm.
And then I want you to put over it the sheet of I have to be a certain way so that people will like me.
Hmm.
And I want you to tell me what goes on the screen in front of you. If there's overlap in those images, if it's weird, if it doesn't make sense, if it...
I think it's hard to say. I like. I'm just trying to think, like, what's on those sheets? Like, is it pictures? Is it words? Is it what? But like, the first instinctive thing that comes to my mind is kind of like a tug of war. Like, you
Yeah,
know, want to trust someone, and then kind of having days where I'm like really pushing for my joke to be the funniest, but then other times feeling relaxed, and then it's
yeah,
always a tug of war between the two. Whereas, and some days you just wake up and everything goes smoothly, and other days you're really like feeling tension within, or someone else is feeling a certain way and you're aware of it. So I think like there's never ever a time where it's just flatlining completely. It's always a bit of a tug of war, and
yeah.
that's the interesting thing about life.
Do you like that? Is that the way you would like to live life, with a little tug of war going on all the time?
Yeah, I think so because I think generally I'd say I'm really positive and happy, but when sometimes you're like I feel really happy and I want to tell people and like that's really cool, but you wouldn't have that if you were constantly on that level. You've got to have kind of the trials and tribulations to put
Gotcha.
stuff in perspective, and yeah. I think it's interesting.
If you can think about it, what's the greatest lesson you've learned by listening to someone else?
Mm, I guess it's that I wouldn't want anyone else to kind of assume they know everything about me, no matter how long they've known me. I wouldn't want someone thinking that about me. So listening to other people and the stories and the, you know, bits I've never asked about or any of that, like there's always more to learn about someone. So I shouldn't make that assumption that there's nothing left to talk about apart from the week we've just had. Like,
I
there's
love that.
always something a little more interesting. So maybe to push that a little bit further each time, and yeah, and let them tell me about who they are because even if they tell you something one day, like a year later, you're a new person. Like,
Yeah,
don't just assume like you've learned that. You don't need to ask again.
I
There's
love that.
always something else.
Eve, I want to thank you for all the time you've given us and all
Oh,
the um, how honest you were and how real you were in this room with an imperfect stranger like myself. I want to thank you for being that open and being that vulnerable and having this discussion with me. And I hope it's the beginning of many discussions that we'll have
mm,
rather than the end. I so appreciate you for coming. And for those people who listen to the show, I want to thank you for listening, because what a beautiful thing that happens. Two strangers come into a room. You have no idea what's going to happen. And I love that you people who come back again and again, come back again and again. And even if it's your first time, I love that it's your first time. And if you like the show, share it with people you like, because that's what we do. You know, when we like something, we tell people we like about it and share what we like with the people that we like. So if you like this, share it with the people that you like. I think that would be fabulous.
mm,
And I want to leave you with a challenge that how long did it take for Eve and I to become friends, to no longer be strangers? We're still strangers in one regard. We don't know much about each other. But the way of our approach was friendly. The conversation we had was friendly. We talked about all sorts of things, and there was no judgment there, no agenda there. And look what happens in a world where there's no judgment and no agenda, where you just listen to another human being and let them share their story with you and tell them what's going on. Eve comes in as a stranger and goes out. on the pathway to becoming a friend. And the world could use more friends right now. The world could use more people that feel the people around them are friends rather than the people around them are strangers. Eve, is there one last thing you want to say before we leave?
Um, yeah, just don't be scared to be vulnerable. Um, because those vulnerabilities are a part of you just as much as the bits you love about yourself, and once you can tap into them, you can see them and accept them in the same way you hope people see you and accept you when you're feeling vulnerable.
Love that. All right, folks. Thank you again, Eve, for being here. How would people
Thank
get in
you.
touch? You're going to send me all of your social media links and your website and stuff like that. But if people wanted to get in touch with you, what would be the best way to get in touch with you?
So I'm the Queen of Heartbreak on Instagram.
Okay, great. And that's the way to get you. So we'll have all your social media links in the show notes. But if you want to get in touch with
Brilliant.
her, see what she's doing, look up Queen of Heartbreaks on Instagram. Um, Again, thank you everybody for being here. Until the next stranger walks into the room, be kind to each other. Be kind to yourself. Love each other. Love yourself. Don't be scared to be vulnerable, as Eve said. And allow people to be vulnerable with you so that you can be vulnerable with them too. I believe that if we see the world as a world full of strangers, it becomes a very strange world for us to live in. But when we take a moment's time and sit with somebody and allow them to become our friend, a stranger becomes a friend in just a moment. And then the world becomes a friendlier place, because when we see the world as with friends, the world becomes a friendly place, and the world sure could use a friendly place now. Be friends with each other, be kind to each other, be friends with yourself, be kind to yourself. Love one another, love yourself. Until the next stranger comes into the room, do good things. Ciao.